right, here we go. OverDrive off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app, your home smart speaker, and up on TSN 2 all afternoon. Bryan Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles McLennan. How we feeling?
Well,
how's everyone feeling?
I want to know how you guys are feeling because I heard a vicious rumor about what you two were up to this morning. Can I get the Cole's Notes version? How did it go?
I'll let everybody know that this idea came about a couple years ago during COVID. Yeah. And the idea was what Hazy B would do at the best course in Canada, which is the National Golf Club of Canada. And today, we went out there and we wheeled around the National Golf Club of Canada, me and Hazy B, with the Policaro brothers, who are the nicest guys you'll ever meet, and they treated me and Hazy B to a luxurious day.
Yep. Spectacular. Basil and Paul, shout out to them. Everyone there at the Nash. We fit in very well, Noodles. Very well. We were shaking hands and kissing babies. And
this guy, every time he turned the corner, how you doing? How you doing? He's grin screwing everybody in sight. What's going on?
Just a phony, eh? Big
oh, my God.
It was a lot of phony vibes.
Here was his line today. He didn't say, how's it going? What's up? He was like, great to be with you. How are you? And I'm like, what?
There was a lot of, hey, thanks for having us. Hey, it's great to see you. There he is. What's up? How are you, pal?
You're just a politician. That's
really was political. I was very diplomatic today. And anyway, awesome, beautiful weather, spectacular spot. And everyone, for the most part, had a good time. We had a great time. And I didn't shoot 200. We weren't playing from the tips. I would not shoot 200 from the tips. Obviously, that was.
What you shot like 83? I was pretty impressed.
It wasn't that good, but it was in the 80s, which is all that matters. From long, tough tees, tough track, beautiful place. So
you
shout
broke
out
100. It wasn't that the big argument for like.
I'll admit. I owe Hazy B an apology. I thought it was going to be not 100, Jamie. I thought it was going to be 200.
Yeah,
and.
And you're not alone. You're not alone. Darcy Tucker owes me an apology. Graham
Dillette, Bob Weeks, a lot of people. Stumpy Thomas, a lot of people said it would be 180 to 200, and you went out there and you shot 88, and just it was a great day.
It was awesome.
You can't beat the spot.
Well, hold on a second. There was an 83 place. And an 88. That's 5 shots here. Where are we at here? Is it just it was the 80s? 80s?
It was an 88, I think, to be accurate. I don't want to be accurate, but that's, I never played there
under
before.
90. I mean, spot. And considering
awesome.
that's as good a track as you've been on.
Noodles, he didn't have his A. If he had had his A game, he could have shot 79 there. No question.
Yeah, we'll see. Possibly down the road, right? We met a lot of great people. I'm sure they'll welcome us back.
Okay, let me ask you this.
Great to be with you.
Great to see you. How you doing?
Was the term chili chunk, did that come out at all today?
There was some chunking. Was there
any form of folding the sod over? Like, I know the verbiage now. Was there any, or did you just miss some shots that you probably should have had? Like either putting.
Well, like at one point, one of us, we don't have to say who it was deep in the jungle looking for a golf ball. I mean, deep in the jungle.
Trump over there?
Yeah. And they got a caddy. One of us was treating the caddy like a Sherpa trying to get us up Mount Everest. And we're looking for a golf ball, and it got a little, there happens to be some video evidence. This guy was wide right on 4. He climbs over the creek. It was wild to see him. He was in the Amazon over there.
I didn't know that we were doing videos today. You know what, though? I punched that out, and I didn't know we were doing goon videos there today.
Tom Kim swimming over.
That's exactly what it was. If it was muddy, he would have come out of there like Tom Kim. Did punch out. I think got on. I think he made par there, actually. So, anyway, shout out to the Policaro brothers. Everyone up there at the Nash. Awesome seeing people. Thanks for setting that up. It's going to be a good one today. We got a lot of golf. We got Michael Block's coming on the show today, right? The Block Party is on his way up to Oakdale, too, right? Like, he's going to be at the Colonial this week. and then he's coming up to the RBC Canadian Open.
So is that guy like a tour player now? Did he just become a tour player?
Basically, he's going to play 3 of the following 4. He won't be at the Memorial. It's an elevated event, and he's not going to that. But he's there this week at Fort Worth. I think, where is it? Down in the Dallas area, I think, Colonial. And then he's up at Oakdale at the RBC Canadian Open. Hopefully we can get him on the show. We're going to be up there. Right, we're going to be doing the show up there all week. He's coming on our show this afternoon, so he'll join us at about 5:30. We got MJ coming up today. Keegan coming up. The Jays are not in a good place.
The hell! I've never kind of been at this spot, but it's like it's turn the channel time where it's just the stupid mistakes, and it's 3 Cobb after the second. I'm like, not tonight. I know the story. I'm not doing it.
I felt like I was bad luck. I watched every game this weekend, and I was like, they can't get a win.
I know.
They can't hit with runners in place. Like, there's so many things that, like, you can't just put your finger on one thing.
That's the issue, Noodles, is once you think that they're figuring that out, like the rotation has been decent recently during this run. The bullpen a little bit leaky, without question. They do not have the power arms out there that they can trust. But you mentioned it, runners in scoring position, it's a mess. And their hitting metrics across the board, they're one of the 4 or 5 worst teams in baseball the last 10 to 12 days. And if you go on a run like that, you're going to lose a lot of ball games. Yeah. And they've lost 7 of 8. They've lost 5 in a row. And you're already picking up on the moral victories, which I heard out of Schneider last night.
I know.
Which is not a good sign when you're, 50 games into the season. It's still May, and he's saying things like, quote, I'm paraphrasing here, we didn't quit. Look what we did in the 9th. It's like, great, you had a rally in the 9th. You didn't win the ball game. Like, you had bases loaded with Bichette on, and he couldn't get a big hit for you.
This is a line that's a cry for help. Everyone in there cares, and they're working their ass off.
Right.
That's the ultimate cry for help.
The ultimate empty calorie comment, too, when that's mandatory in pro sports. Obviously, people are working hard, and obviously they care, and obviously they'd like to win. Right. Like, it does that falls on deaf ears when you're a playoff team the last couple of years. Expectations are high this year, and now they're last place in the AL East, and they're chasing it, man. Like, Tampa feels like they're gone anyway, much like the Yankees were last year. Like, that's probably gone, but you're chasing wild card spots. You got to get past Baltimore, who's way ahead of you. They just skunked you. You got to keep up with the Yankees, keep up with the Sox. Houston's coming alive. I think Seattle's going to come alive in the second half. Like, it is not a guarantee they make the playoffs at all. Like, that is clear cut. And it's May 23rd. So, yes, long season. A lot of games left to be played. Still over 100 games left to be played. But this is an ugly stretch. And they're back at it tonight, right? You're down at the Trop for 4. So it's not going to get easier with Barrios on the mound. Keegan Matheson will join us from Tampa later this afternoon. The Stanley Cup playoffs continuing. The Maple Leaf drama continues. I can't tell you how many people are stopping me. Like, we joke around about pulling a Monty and grin screwing and all that kind of stuff. There were people legitimately asking, like, what's going on here? Like, what's up with the Leafs? What do you make of it? And, Kyle Dubas issued a statement today.
Hayes, I know you like content. You like things, but do we really need to make this big of a deal of what this transaction is? Can't we just move on? Kyle's a good guy. He's a good hockey guy. He's going to go on to another organization. Or are we going to keep continuing with this nonsense? I don't know. Or is it just because of the – what?
I think it's going to continue because – of the way the transaction went down. It wasn't – it's noisy, if that makes sense. Like, you get Kyle come out on a Monday, then, Brendan comes out on Friday and lets him go, and Kyle doesn't speak, releases a statement. There's all this speculation. Now it's like, are you on Team Kyle or are you on Team Shanny? Well,
I know, but that's the part. That's like, the element, Noodles, where I'm just like, what are we? Are we in high school here? Or like, there's people saying, I wanted Kyle to come out and tell his version of what happened. I just don't understand why. And maybe this is just the simple approach I have to it. He's going to go work in another hockey organization. Why do we have to make it like this circus? I don't get it.
Well, I think the easy answer is sports is about entertainment. It's an escape. It's a soap opera. And that's what is happening here, right? This is a team a lot of people really care about, and there's been a fallout. And it's a very public fallout between two very public figures.
I can take that. I buy that.
That's exactly what it is. And on top of that, what really is at the top of the mind of Leaf fans, which is amazing considering the season just ended and it ended flat, is not about, okay, what happened, what went right, what went wrong, what are they going to do, with certain free agents here, what are they going to do next season, what about Sheldon Keefe? I find at the forefront of everyone's mind, at least the people I've spoken with and who I've heard unprovoked, including this afternoon at lunch, is Auston Matthews is at the forefront of all of this, is what's going to happen with Matthews. Is he going to be here long term? Does he want to be here? And what I will say is, because we're not going to sit here and break down word for word the Dubas statement. Like, that's absurd.
Right.
Oh, he didn't mention this guy. He didn't whatever. I don't know. It's a statement. Who knows? I don't even know if he drafted it. Someone else might have drafted it. He pressed send. It's out there. Okay. But this idea that Auston Matthews, his future is connected to who the GM is absolutely insane and the most ridiculous amateur hour take I've ever heard. With all the respect to Kyle or whoever the next person is, yes, that person has to be competent. You guys can speak to it as players.
Right.
Who the GM is so far down the list in terms of the city, the lifestyle, their teammates. Who's the coach? Who are you? How much am I getting paid? Am I getting a signing bonus? Like, Auston Matthews was not on Thursday saying, let's do it, man, whatever you want. I'll sign that. And then on Friday, no, I don't think so. I'm going to play somewhere else.
Dude,
Kyle Dubas isn't here.
Other than negotiating your contract, the conversation between an actual player and a general manager is minimal. You might have the general manager come down in between periods and say, screw you guys, you can put suits on for the next road trip or something to that effect. You might go up into his office with a couple other guys saying, hey, can we loosen up the dress code? Other than that, it's not much. It's not much. If you're playing really bad and you're on a month-long stretch of poor hockey, you might get called into his office. Other than that, not a part of your life, basically.
Yeah.
So I get your point. It has no effect. You got to negotiate the deal, and it's the biggest deal that's going to happen here in ages.
Yeah.
And it's going to be forever. But other than that, what the hell does the player have to do with the general manager?
I agree. I don't like. There's general managers that I loved. There's general managers that I didn't care for. But ultimately, I worked for them. Like, it's a business, and the fact that Auston Matthews is going to go where Kyle Dubas goes, I doubt it.
No,
Why?
of course
Why would
not.
you go it's an asinine take, but what it is, and I understand it, it's emotional. And that's where people are right now. They're very emotional. And that's what I've been frustrated by, because you're talking to a lot of people. Believe me, I'm getting stop and chats too. And they're saying, well, it's Shanny did this or Dubas did this. Maybe the truth is somewhere in the middle. And at the end of the day, you've won one playoff round in how many years, and on Kyle's watch. And yes, is the organization in better shape than it was 5 years ago when he took over, or 9 years ago when Shanny took over? Yes, it's trended in the right direction. But ultimately, still work to be done here. Lots of work. And whoever's driving that boat has a lot of work ahead of them.
Absolutely. And that is reasonable where the player, Matthews or anyone else, would want an answer on that kind of stuff.
Sure.
And would want clarity. Hey, if I'm going to commit, what are we doing here? Where are we going?
Hayes, let me just touch on one other thing. It could be a big deal if you want to be more than a player in an organization. Do you understand what I'm saying by that? If you want to direct traffic and say, oh, yeah, I don't trade that guy. I want that guy here. I don't want this to happen. So if you want to be more involved as a player and start directing traffic and put your nose somewhere where it doesn't need to be, then maybe the general manager, because a lot of GMs would say, do your job and shut your mouth.
Yeah. That's valid, and I don't know if that was a part of the relationship or not.
I'm just saying that's the only way a GM could affect a player. If you want to get greasy and say, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that if that guy's not here, et cetera, et cetera.
Right, and as I think we'd all concede, whoever is the GM, and let's be honest, as we've noticed here, Shanahan is a consistent part of everything that happens within this organization.
Yep.
And we got a clip here from CJ on the morning show we'll get to, which speaks to it, how his fingerprints are all over everything. So even though Dubas is out, there's still consistency at the top because Shanahan is there. But whoever is the GM or whoever is the executive of the day, so to speak, yes, they have to have a plan. It's got to be clear-cut, and I'm sure Matthews and other players are going to want an answer on that. But Auston Matthews has been here for 7 years, and I'm sure what he has learned is this is an ownership group that gives blank checks to go out there and spend. Like, nothing will be shortchanged. It will not be a scenario where there's a rock that doesn't get turned over because ownership isn't willing to pay for it. Ownership, I believe, desperately wants to win. Who knows, because of the whole conglomerate and how strange it is. But by no means, I don't believe Matthews or any other player should sit there and say, this is Mickey Mouse. Can't win here because we don't spend. Or can't win here because we don't treat people properly. By all accounts, it is A-class, 5-star across the board. Yep. So that's where it starts, is, yes, they're going to continue to be committed. Now, what is the game plan moving forward? Again, we don't have that answer because that's a bit in flux with a new GM coming in. Well, but Matthews, it's very simple. If he wants to be here, he will be here, regardless of who the coach is, the GM is, the president is. If he doesn't, he won't be. Like, it's really pretty simple because, like, if he's signing long-term, he's committing. And that means coaches come and go, GMs come and go, teammates come and go. That's the way it works.
Yeah, and if he wasn't telling the truth at the end of the season, he's got something to fall on, too. He's just going to say, I didn't like the way things shaked out, and I'm not coming back.
Well
that's just the way it
might.
I don't know what else to say about that.
But no one should believe that.
But you know what? There's a lot of different, and we can play the what-if game all afternoon. But ultimately, this is the thing I was thinking about this morning. Like, the organization won't crumble if Auston Matthews doesn't have a deal on July 1st. Like, you're allowed to have some time to take a step back. You're allowed to, let things breathe a little bit. David Pasternak, who was up for the Hart this season, went all season long. How long did he go until he signed his extension? You're allowed to play hockey with the contract that you have. Mm-hmm. Now, is it more dangerous the longer it goes? Yes, because things could change, obviously. But it's, right now, with what, do we have 5 weeks left? If Auston Matthews, there's going to be a new manager here probably sooner than later, I would argue, then he can sit down and say, what is the vision? This is what I'd like to do. I don't know. I wasn't convinced he's signing an 8-year deal anyways. I'd be shocked.
No.
Like, to me, it's 3 or 5 years. That's
Possibly.
the way I'm looking at it.
Yeah,
so,
and even if that's the case and the number's, an appropriate number, that's still a win. He's still here.
Exactly.
He's still a Leaf throughout his prime.
Yeah.
He just signed a 5-year deal. It doesn't matter if it's 7, 8, 5. You push it down the road and you keep the big dog in the house. Ultimately, that's clearly their plan, and that's what they want, and that's what they should want. Beyond that is where you really start to question what could happen and what the new GM could end up doing and what he's even capable of doing. Because we have a clip here. Chris Johnston was on the morning show, was on First Up this morning, and he's got details on Shanahan calling around, telling players about what happened with Dubas. And this is what CJ is reporting in terms of what the big players on this team, effectively the core four, believe the messaging was from Shanahan about their future in Toronto.
Brendan wanted to deliver the news about what was going on with Kyle Dubas directly to his players, at least as many as he could reach in a short amount of time. And I think as part of those conversations, those players came away thinking that the core four is likely to be intact next season. That's something Brendan Shanahan would like to see happen, and maybe put some of those guys' minds at ease because obviously there's been a lot of discussion about whether there would be a trade to one of those players. I mean, I don't think that anything that was said there preempts the fact that it could still be possible. Obviously, we'll see who the GM is and what that person wants to do. But, those guys came away from those calls feeling as though the organization still wanted to move ahead with them, as a group moving into next season.
Ooh. So this could be a Masai DeMar DeRozan conversation, right?
I think it is.
We have learned that from the past, right? It doesn't really matter what's said during the offseason. Who knows what's going to happen?
Didn't those two meet out in Vegas, and it was like, don't worry, you're staying, pal.
Yeah, and then Kawhi became available. But honestly, still, the essence of it is what CJ's saying is now this could speak to the players too, right? Players not thinking that they're in the wrong, right? And their interpretation is, hey, it's not our issue, right? Like, deal with Dubas, deal with the coach or whatever. But obviously you want to keep us, and I wouldn't be shocked if that were the interpretation. But, man, that says a couple things to me. One, is it Dubas and Keefe that are going to fall on the sword and not the players? That's a question. But secondly, whoever's coming in as a GM, if that's the messaging from Shanahan, if you want the job, do you have to pitch that? Like, is Shanahan basically saying, I want someone to come in here and tell me that you can win with the core four, that you're gonna build around the core four?
What general manager or prospective general manager would walk into his office if he didn't actually believe that? Would you actually lie to yourself just to get the job? I wouldn't.
I think what
you probably should.
You got to listen to everything. But there's an easy out in this, and I'm trying to remember the word that Brendan Shanahan used in his press conference, that he wanted an experienced manager, but somebody who was bold. Was it bold?
Well, no, he said he'd be experience would be attractive, and then I think it was Dregs that was saying, maybe a GM with some bite. I believe
okay,
has been reporting that.
Yeah,
and I don't know how you interpret that.
What I'm saying is, okay, so I'm just using that as a reference point. If one of those core four ends up getting traded, all you say is, you know what, the new GM wanted to head this direction. Like that's not a binding conversation, right, as we've seen before. That's my point with all of this. You can say whatever you want, but when business comes to business and there is a deal out there that can make your organization better that you feel, you do it. And you just quoted Masai and DeMar. Hey, you're not going anywhere. Actually, you are, because we found a guy who is an upgrade on you that's going to help us win. So I'm sorry, And
that's the nature of pro sports. That's the business. And again, we don't know exactly what was being expressed, exactly the tone behind it, how sincere it all is, or what the interpretation was supposed to be from either side. But, again, with the new GM coming in, if that's how Shanahan feels, like Shanahan – he holds the hammer, man. Like, he's going to make the final call on everything.
Yeah.
So if he wants them back, if that's what he wants, you can take it to the bank. The four of them are coming back. Like, I don't see a GM coming in and selling him otherwise. Like, if he's made up his mind, he wants the four back, then I guess brace yourself for that.
Yeah, but what are we taking from CJ's report there? His report is that he reached out. Did he say that he guaranteed that all of them would remain Maple Leafs?
No.
I don't know if Chris Johnston said that in his report.
No, he didn't. He said they came away believing Shanahan wants the four to return, effectively. So, again, take that for what it's worth. But I don't think people were bracing for that 2 weeks after they lost, right? And a week, in a few days after the Shanahan presser, and a week after the Dubas presser, weren't we all? Didn't everyone say it? Like, one of them's going.
Well, yeah.
Maybe they're not.
Well, that's the
whole thing. Maybe they're not.
The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. So, I mean, that's what people deduce from that. Is like, okay, this core four hasn't been able to get it done. So maybe it is a different thought process shaped around the core four, but I think they've tried everything. So it'd be interesting to see. Again, I think this is all lip service in May. Nothing's going to transpire here or be held accountable until October. We'll see. This team's going to look a lot different next year.
Well, naturally, because of the amount of players coming in and out, the amount of acquisitions at the deadline, UFAs. That's going to happen anyway. But will it feel different if the core four are back, Riley's back, Brody's back? The same spine could return. Could. Yeah. I mean, it's too early to know that. And you're right that nothing is binding based on a conversation in May.
Yeah.
Means nothing.
I think the best thing to happen is get the new GM in place sooner than later. Obviously, it's a process. You have to go through the interview thing. But like, JFJ's not getting rehired here. So, you know what I mean? It's not too hard to figure out who's a possible candidate, who are some high-end people that could possibly get out of other, like there's 3 or 4 guys that can possibly get this job.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And
the best PR move is to get some guy in place rather quickly.
Yes,
and just for the
I agree with
record,
that.
there's a lot of good GMs out there. Kyle Dubas wasn't the only good GM in the league. Like, that's the other thing.
That was kind of my opening point, Jamie,
there's
where
other
it's
good
like
GMs out there too.
he was a good
You know
guy.
what I mean?
He was a good hockey guy. He's going to a different organization in the future. Let's just
and wish him well. Like, he's a good guy, but it's just like
God.
It's like I the amount of vitriol online. I get it. But like I say, the track record, like, he didn't deliver a cup and then quit the next day or get fired the next day. Built a good program. There's a lot of great programs in the NHL. They'll get another general manager who's qualified to run this program. Mm-hmm. That's the bottom line for the Leaf organization.
Right, and that's the nature of sports, is people come and go. That's always been the case. And guess what? The next GM that's here probably won't be here in 7 or 8 years. Doesn't mean they won't have success.
Exactly.
Just the nature of the beast. Like, that's the way it goes.
Yep.
All right, the PGA Championship is behind us. What a week it was, man. Brooks Koepka put on a clinic. Corey Connors was in the hunt until Sunday, and Michael Block made his name known. We'll catch up with Colt Knost, CBS Golf analyst. Michael Block will join us in about an hour. Mike Johnson coming up from the World Championships just after 5 o'clock. Keegan Matheson from the Trop ahead of Game 2 against the Rays tonight. Got confirm or deny coming up in a couple of hours.
I will say, Hazy B, I do apologize. On 18, I gave you one bad read, and I thought your head was going to pop off. We'll take a break.
It's all good. It's all good. It's all good.
I need to hear this.
Not
like steam.
What are you going to do, man?
Bad read on 18? A bad read on
18, and he was cooking. He kind of had, and it was, I'll go to break and I'll explain.
It's all good. It's all good. OverDrive brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Here up on TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, Mike Johnson coming up in about a half an hour. Man, we need Dallas to pick up a win here for the conference finals in the NHL and the NBA. Right? Lakers are out. Celtics could go out tonight. Carolina's a game away from packing their bags. If Dallas loses tonight,
have you guys not sensed like kind of a fizzle? I don't know. I know they're like, we're in a Canadian market, and obviously hockey is everything in Canada. But just watching it just seems it's such a casual watch for me. I don't know why. I don't know why.
Yeah, I mean because we're on the verge of sweeps. I think. Yeah. Again, in the NBA, NHL, there isn't enough there. More on that in a half an hour with Johnny. So the PGA Championship is behind us. PGA rolls off to Colonial this week. Then they're at the Memorial. Then they're up here for the RBC Canadian Open. And a man that was on the grounds down in Rochester joins us now, former pro CBS Golf analyst Colt Knost. How you doing, Colt?
I'm good, guys. And first off, let's just get it straight. The Dallas Stars are going to win tonight. Everybody relax.
Okay.
There you go.
We need it. We need it, man. We need something in the NHL or NBA. It's been brutal. It's just blowouts and sweeps. But, man, the PGA picked up where they left off, because what a week it was in the golf world. What was more of a compelling story for you? Was it Koepka and what he did? Was it Michael Block and what he did? Where did you stand on that debate that's been going on?
I mean, I loved it all. It was incredible. I mean, the story of Michael Block, you can't make that stuff up. The way he played, who he played with, making a hole-in-one, the up and down on 18 to get into next year's PGA Championship, which I don't think any of us were worried about him qualifying for the PGA next year if it didn't get up and down. But that was just ridiculous. And then you have Brooks doing Brooks Koepka things. You know, the man's back and he's healthy. I said after he won the LIV event in Orlando heading into the Masters, I thought he'd be a problem because it's the healthiest I've ever seen him. And when the major championships come around, he brings his A game. And he did it again this past week in Rochester on a really tough golf course. It was impressive to watch.
Colt, how do you think he kind of built himself and his game back up? Watching him in that Netflix series, he seemed broken. Like he was like on the putting green. He couldn't make a 10-footer. And he said it himself. He's like, when I was on top of my game, I rolled that in every time. What do you think? Like, how did he search for his game and find it? Because he's impressive right now, and he looks like he's going to rip off 3 or 4 majors in the next coming years.
You know, I don't think we'll ever know like how seriously injured he was. I don't think he'll ever disclose that, but I think he was really hurt. You could see it at Augusta the way he was walking around. I mean, he came back from surgery so fast. But listen, as talented as he is, when you're out there playing and your body's in 60, 70%, like, you can't beat those guys. I don't care how good you are. You got to be healthy to compete. And, I mean, talking to his team, this is the best his body has felt in several years, and you can see it in his game. He's got the confidence back in his walk. He has no problem squatting down, reading putts. He's got the speed, and we're seeing him do what we're used to seeing him do on the biggest stage. I mean, he, had a couple little hiccups here on Sunday, but never looked like he was going to panic at all. He got close a couple of times, but in the end, he hit the shots that mattered. I mean, I think we look at 16 and we think of Victor Hovland, what happened to him, but I think you got to give Brooks a lot of credit for the tee shot and then throwing the wedge in there to pretty much tap-in range and sealing the deal.
Colt, you know those guys well. You competed against them. Is the vibe with the LIV guys and the PGA Tour guys, is it simmering a little bit? Like with Koepka winning, are they, I don't know, just how's that vibe? Is it a little bit more chilled out now, or is it still the same?
I don't think it's ever been as big as the media has made it out to be. Like, listen, guys, it's hard to blame a guy for going over and taking $100 million plus. Like, that's just generational, life-changing money, and it's hard to hate on a guy for that. I think the biggest thing, more people have a problem with the LIV League in general than they do a certain players. Like, I think all these players, for the most part, are still really good friends. And, they hang out together down there in Florida or Scottsdale or wherever they're based out of. But I think the media has made it a much bigger deal than the players have.
Do you think there's maybe you talk about a trickle-down effect, but behind closed doors that some of the PGA players are thankful that some of the guys jumped to LIV because it seems like the stakes are a lot higher now as far as financially on the PGA side?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that went into that. Obviously, LIV did help, kind of change the PGA Tour's ways and get some more money out there to the players. But also, the new TV contracts went into effect last year. That was a huge help. But yeah, I think there's no doubt they're thankful LIV came along financially. Yeah, I mean, it's changed the game. I mean, playing for $20 million multiple times a year, it's kind of crazy to think of.
With Colt Knost, I wonder if the opposite is what's actually going to come out of this. If there's players on the PGA Tour saying, wait a minute, I can go make a fortune, play 12 or 14 times and still win majors? What am I doing grinding at the Rocket Mortgage? Why am I playing the 3M? I wonder if that's what comes out of this, Colt, is watching Koepka do what he's doing, DeChambeau, Phil. Like, Mickelson tweeted it out. Of course, Phil's biased. But he basically tweeted, he's like, there's no doubt I can just prep for the majors because I don't play that much. You think there's any truth in that?
He can. Yeah, he can. Not everyone can, though. Not everyone's exempt to the majors for the next 5 years because they haven't won one.
Right.
You got to stay in the top 50 in the world golf rankings. So, yeah, if you have that luxury, then and all you care about is the major championships, which most of the top players, that's their number one focus, then, yeah, of course, it's great. But not everyone has that luxury to be able to jump ship and come back. My whole deal is the PGA Tour is not going anywhere. It's always going to be there. Is LIV going to be there in 3 to 5 years? I guess we're going to have to sit back and wait and see. But, I use the quote that Brooks Koepka used on Pardon My Take after he won. He's got a crazy week ahead of him. He was at the Florida Panthers game last night. He's going to the Miami Heat game tonight. He's going to the Panthers game Wednesday night. And then he's going to fly up and tee it up at a LIV event in D.C. If he really cared that much about the event, would that be his preparation?
Right.
I mean, that's just my opinion. I don't think many guys, that have played at the highest level, that's their prep. And he said, I have to go play the LIV event. If it was a PGA Tour event, you could have the option of skipping it after winning a major and celebrating all you want, which he deserves to celebrate. He conquered an incredibly tough golf course, one of the best fields of the year, and I don't blame him one bit for celebrating. But I'm just saying, if you had to go tee it up for your job, I don't think that's the way you would prepare.
Colt, up here in Canada, obviously we follow Corey Connors closely. He had a tough Sunday. I believe you were walking with that group for a little bit, and then somebody basically told you to pull the pin because it was pretty ugly. He had a tough President's Cup. How does a golfer, explain it to us, kind of get over the hump? Because, I mean, you just have to keep putting yourself into that position, or does the golfer and the player himself sooner or later have to say, I just got to go out there and play better and get my own results.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, I think when Corey Connors has all the tools to win a major championship, right? The putter gets a little dodgy sometimes, but last week, I mean, he really thrived chipping and putting the golf ball, which is not what we're used to seeing from him. He's always a phenomenal ball striker, but it just shows you, the pressure of a major championship Sunday. He stepped up on that first tee and striped it. Didn't hit the best iron shot into the green, but after that, just really never looked comfortable. I thought when he got up and down from 93 yards on the second for par, it would really settle him down. But it just didn't. I saw him, hit tee shots we're just not used to. We're used to seeing him drive the ball as well as anybody, and he really struggled putting the ball in the fairway on Sunday, which is what you have to do around Oak Hill if you want to play well. And he just didn't do that. I mean, he fought his butt off and grinded it all the way out. I know he's disappointed in the result, but I think he's going to learn from this, and he'll be better the next time he's there.
He is a longtime pro CBS Golf analyst, co-host of the Subpar podcast, Colt Knost. Always appreciate you finding time for us, Colt. Thank you for doing this.
You got it. Y'all have a great day. Thanks.
Yep, you too. So, yeah, Connors, disappointing, man. He was right in it all throughout the week until Sunday. And basically until he hit that ball into the lip on 16. Like, that was kind of the beginning of the end on Saturday, and then Sunday it went south. But Koepka is a beast. Like, he is an absolute beast. And now he's got 5 majors. That's more than McIlroy. That's more than Spieth. More than Thomas. Like, this guy, he is a legit
and he's 28 years old.
Superstar.
Well, I kept thinking about, too, he's at that Panthers game last night. Like, has he
buckled at that Panthers game?
Well, he should be, but
of course.
Is he mended fences with Ekblad? Like I even thought,
I don't think so.
I believe he did. The report was that he reached out to Ekblad, and then I believe he saw him face to face and apologized. And it sounds like Ekblad was okay with it. I don't know. Ekblad may always be like, I can't stand this guy. Koepka was up in Toronto, I believe, for Game 5. Like, there were shots of him in the stands down at Scotiabank wearing a Panthers jersey.
So he's a legit fan, fan, like not just.
I think he grew up playing hockey and has always loved the Panthers since they came in, and he's from South Florida, so he's legitimately a big. That's the thing. He doesn't like golf. Like, he'd rather play hockey, baseball.
Just good at it.
He's just so good at it. Exactly. Yeah. He's like, I'll just go keep doing this and making millions.
Yeah.
So, anyway, Michael Block will join us, who is the most famous amateur club pro golfer in the world. And he's teeing it up this week. He'll be up here at the RBC Canadian Open in a couple of weeks. He'll join us at 5:30. Confirm it tonight at 6:30 this afternoon. Rumors of LeBron hanging them up. Is anyone buying that? We'll get into it more as time comes. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. So I have a couple of theories on LeBron because it came out last night. I think Chris Haynes was reporting that LeBron is going to contemplate retirement, right? Retirement's on the table. My first theory is he's trolling Mike Malone, the coach of the Denver Nuggets, because he knows no one's going to talk about Denver today if LeBron is contemplating retirement. And I think he knows that would drive Malone absolutely crazy because Malone has been beating his chest about it, right? Saying you got to talk Nuggets. Got to talk about the Nuggets. A little LeBron scoop that maybe he's going to retire. Boom, no one cares about Jokic and Murray and Mike Malone anymore.
Is there ego involved where it's just like, is it going to, like, you only get one decision. Like, what are we going to all do? Sit around and wait for you? And then, like, I don't know. There's ego involved there, man.
He might be like Brady. I'm telling you. He might go away and then come back. And does he want to play with his son, too?
Right, which is still a couple years away.
Dude, he's not playing in a couple years. Like, sorry. He's not playing with his son in the NBA. Like,
I think he will.
I think he's going to be playing in a couple of years. Whether or not he plays with his kid's got to make the NBA. Who knows if he's good enough to even make the NBA.
Right.
But this is what the legends do now, is you get towards the end and you kind of throw it out there to put people on notice.
Because there's ego involved.
Of
because
course.
He wants everybody waiting and dying on your last words. It's
Absolutely.
like, come on.
Just like Aaron Rodgers, right? Just like Brady to an extent, although Brady left and then came right back. And now Brady's in on that ownership down in Vegas, so he's not going to return, clearly.
Yeah.
If he's into ownership, he's not playing again.
Well, if he's into ownership, can he broadcast?
that's a completely different story. I don't know.
Yeah.
I would assume Fox wouldn't care, right? Like, if you're Fox, why not? Like, maybe he'd have to step out of the booth when calling Raiders games, but everyone in the
That'd
booth
be
has
weird.
a connection to somebody, right? Aikman, when he calls Cowboys games, everyone knows he played for the Cowboys. He went 3 Super Bowls there, right? Like, whoever's in the booth, Tony Romo is calling Cowboy games. Collinsworth calling Cincinnati
but it would be
games.
a bit weird that you're calling a game and you're part owner of that team.
Yes.
To me, I think there's a
Different.
line. That's the line.
I'll agree with you on that one, Noodles. That might be a bit of a stretch. So
That
I
might
think
be the
ownership
line.
for Brady, that means he's contemplating not doing the broadcasting period.
possibly, yeah.
Why would
possibly.
you? If you're him, what is Brady? 46 now? Like,
Well, Noodles, they offered him $350 million to do it. It's not
I understand
like
that, but you know what? He could probably get in on ownership and just sit there and do nothing, and his ownership stake will grow by $300 million. Like that, those NFL teams, they print money. That league prints money.
Yep.
Like if you're in on the other side, if you're in on the ownership side, you were printing money. Now on paper,
I do
you'd have
see
to sell
that
a
more
stake.
as a fit, him being an owner / locking himself in his office and trying to figure out ways for the Vegas Raiders to be better, helping coaches, helping the – I see him doing that more than I do television, to be honest with you.
That's the level of legends, right? Like Jordan in on ownership, Gretzky ownership, but that got sticky.
Yeah.
Brady, like LeBron's going to do that. When LeBron gets out, LeBron is going to be an owner. Like when you reach that status,
Yeah.
that's a different
He's
level.
going to be sole owner, too.
Yeah, very likely could be. And a lot of people are connecting those dots. Like the NBA might expand in a couple of years, go to Vegas, he'll retire, step right into that, right? But he's playing. And LeBron, he's not just going to disappear without people understanding this is the end. He's going to do the tour. He's doing what Jeter did,
He's
what
doing
Rivera
a full
did.
tour.
He's
The
doing a
full
full tour. You can guarantee you he's doing a tour. I think Kobe was doing a tour.
Yeah.
Like everyone knew Kobe was retiring by the end. Of course LeBron's going to do that.
Bron, he's not going to go away quietly. He's
No.
going to go away on his terms, but it'll be noisy and it'll be about him.
Mm-hmm.
And, good for Denver. Like Denver, Bron, at least he played well in the first half and was really
Sure did.
strong, and then they went
38.
south. Denver took over. Yeah, exactly.
38. Like that's the
Yeah.
amazing thing of LeBron and Brady, considering we're talking about him. Like we didn't treat those guys like they were 38 years old. Like when Brady was 38, he still had another 4 Super Bowls ahead of him. Right? Last year, he's 45 and he has a bad game and people are carving him. He's 45. Like LeBron's
true.
38. He's putting up near triple-double stats and it's didn't love his fourth quarter. Like the guy's 38 years old.
Can you tell me
Played
what
more
the hell
minutes than
the
anybody.
Can you tell me what the hell the Boston Celtics, what happened to them? How did they crumble like this? I thought they were going to take it all.
It felt that way. Their coach is getting destroyed. That's a sign of a sports town that does not accept anything.
Wow. Think of the
Right.
Bruins. Think of what going into these playoffs, they had the Celtics and the Bruins both expected to do some special
Damage.
things, correct?
Big things.
Big
things.
damage, right? That's a big disappointment. It'd be interesting to see. Do you believe heads will roll based on that? I don't think in the Bruins, I don't think as much.
Don't think so with the Bruins, but the Celtics very well could.
Well, what the hell they can play? What are they saying about the coach? He's a moron all of a sudden.
Exactly, right? Now it's Ime Udoka was the real deal. This guy, Missoula, doesn't know what he's doing. Who knows?
Yeah.
Ultimately, the players play. It's such a cop-out. Right, players haven't been good enough.
Well,
And
all I
you
read on Twitter was how it's unbelievable how Boston quit in that game. Quit.
Well, they did. They got lapped, but also you got to give credit to the team that wins too. Miami was a loss away from being out. They lost the first play-in game. They had to beat the Bulls at home to get in, and then they've gone on this run. And Jimmy Butler is just crushing souls, right? And Bam's crushing souls, and they are playing at a level that is just above and beyond what Boston can bring right now.
And you talk about a
And
coach. You got to give props to that coach that they have.
Spoelstra's outstanding. And you know what?
Outstanding.
Spoelstra's he's consistent, right? Been there a long time. He said it last week. He's like, I'm really disturbed with the amount of turnover in this league.
No kidding. He started out as a video guy when he was 28 or something like that.
Right.
younger.
And there's been reports of players that wanted him out over the years, and Riley said no. Like, no.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that, too. Pat Riley at the top saying, absolutely not. The players do not dictate what happens around here. That's the sign of a great executive and a great organization that has high expectations. Confirm and deny coming up later this afternoon. Mike Johnson coming up as well. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2.